Hello and welcome back to The Village 6.0. Um, I've had a number of requests for showing the inside of the different places the people live. For those of you not familiar, the village is an outdoor room set up as a village, for I believe 15 of my alts. Yes, I have way too many alts. So let's start a tour with just a look around the village itself, and then we'll proceed to the interior rooms so you can see how my people live. So this is, of course, the main square area. A lot of my tunes were in Pandaria, so my wife made me this fountain. Ain't love grand. One of the pieces for this fountain cost 20,000 gold, which is pretty absurd, but it's a great fountain, makes a great centerpiece for the village. And coming around, we can see that this is multi-story on this end. Going vertical, let me give people more space. So let's start upstairs. Have a look around and see who lives there. Necessary accommodations, of course. I'm not used to navigating in first person, so this could be a little rough. So this is my first ever tune in Glary, who is a human warrior, and he was my main through many expansions, which is reflected in the decor from a lot of different places and times in the game. So he has a nice sitting room downstairs for entertaining guests. And upstairs, he has a nice private seating area and bedroom with all the necessary things and a great view of the village square. People ask me why he has a horde emblem on the wall. Come on, people, it's a trophy. People do that. So, upstairs is the gnome Death Knight. I kind of refer to this building as the gnome stack because everybody who lives in it are gnomes. I have a lot of gnomes. So the gnome Death Knight. The great thing about gnomes is they don't require a ton of room, because if everything is scaled down to them, even a small room like this has room for everything they need. And of course, the windows with view, his Death Knight work table with a bit of coffee, because what gnomes really need is to be juiced up on caffeine. Okay, in here is my gnome hunter. As soon as we could roll gnome hunters in an expansion, my wife and I made Knick-Knack, who lives here, and Paddywhack, and we ran them through that expansion. So, order hall stuff, of course, because Legion has some fantastic decor. Oh, close the door. Around the corner, we have a departure from the theme of gnomes. This is a temporary accommodation for my Pandaren monk until I have the budget to do him a proper Pandaren place. So it's all very compact, but it's only temporary until level 10 drops. And there's the new Order Hall banner. They finally introduced an Order Hall banner for the monks from Legion, and it's a good one. I like it. Oh, allergy season. I'm a bit stuffy this morning. Please forgive the sniffles and such. Okay, then across this walkway, we come to the Void Elf Mage's place. And downstairs, it's all business. Mage business. And then upstairs, my headcanon for this tune is that she's a rich girl. She was a, Silver Moon Belf until they got exiled. So she's still got the rich girl vibe up here. And down and out. And then we come to my Death Knight. This is Fred, the Death Knight. He was my first Death Knight way back in Wrath. And the downstairs is very stereotypically Death Knight-y, which Fred thinks is hilarious. Spider webs and creepiness. Some random bones, and, of course, the rotation bug, which I will have to fix before I can get up the stairs. Blizzard is never going to fix the rotation bug, so I still haven't found a good way to do a workaround. I'm going to pause the video while I fix that. So the wall that was rotated is actually a square rug, and I went with that color because it kind of reminds me of dried blood, which I thought was suitably grim and dark for a Death Knight. Going upstairs, we see what Fred is really like, which is not at all dark and grim. And he has a nice balcony area set up. Gives him a little more living room and lovely views of the village. I am not convinced that first person is the best way to shoot these videos, but let me know what you think in the comments. It's not entirely satisfactory to me. We'll get downstairs and see what people are doing down on the ground. And we'll start at the bottom of the gnome stack with the gnome rogue. And she is, again, all business here on the ground floor. Her poison-making station and a place to sit and chat with someone about their needs. And then upstairs, a very comfortable sitting area and sleeping area. Just a nice little space for a nice little person who's a thief and a murderer. And then next door to that, and this is the gnome priest's place. He's low level and I haven't done a lot with him, so the decoration is not extensive or extremely personalized. But gnomes are great because you can stuff them in tiny little spaces. Next is my mage main, who is shockingly a gnome, who has a nice little mage tower, because a 3-foot tall person desperately needs a 4-story white marble tower. So the entryway here is just that. It's just an entryway. It's decorative and slightly creepy, I think, with the leafless trees or bushes. Then upstairs we come to his parlor, where he talks to people, which is set up to be impressively magey, with all the requisite floaty things and glowy things, and just generally meant to impress the rubes. And then above that is where the real work gets done, his study, which is a nicely set up space. Plenty of bookshelves, plenty of reference materials. Really jerky camera work here, folks. I'm sorry about that. There are some things I can do about that, and I'm looking into them. But for right now, things are pretty jerky. So there's his study space and working space. And then finally, in the last, is his living quarters, which are very comfortable. I am trying to avoid using the word cozy, and he does have some Amani decor because he basically leveled this expansion through the Amani zone. And a little train my lovely wife made for me. And of course, as I say, much reference material. Now my headcanon is that the stairs are floating so that if Norman, that's his name, Norman the Gnome, if he gets trapped upstairs, he can collapse the stairway by removing the enchantment on the stair treads, and they'll all just fall down, making it harder to get at him. And 3 floors of that would get rather tedious if you were intent on doing him harm. So next we come to the Night Elf area. And over here, the Night Elf Death Knight has their place, which they sort of reject the grim, dark, death and decay aesthetic. You know, they have to put up with it, but they don't have to project it or live it. And then next to that is a tree house for the demon hunter. And again, a nice comfortable little space with just what you need, not much you don't. Little reading material, some ornaments, but a somewhat Spartan place. Now, under here, there is a little relaxing or meditation area with a fountain with the koi. I love the fountain with the koi. I want more koi. And the Night Elf zone is interrupted by a Draenei mage. But this is where their cottage fit, so this is where it went. And it's very Draenei. A very small space. And I'm using the hollow dais as an energy wall, because I thought that was cool. And work and study space, and a little extra storage. This is always fun to set up because you can't open the chest in the editor. So you have to kind of place things and move the chest around them. But it works. I think it's a nice detail. And then the last of the Night Elf places, another treehouse. This is for my Night Elf hunter. Little fountain here in the corner. And then up the stairs. And no, that is not part of this. People keep going over there saying, well, the floor is slanted. No, it's not a floor. That's the roof of another place. That's what happens when you have all these people crammed into one space. So she has a bit of a balcony here, overlooking the village. And then inside, nicely set up as a huntery place. Again, all the comforts, but not much that is surplus. And, you know, a stool for visitors. Always nice to socialize. And then coming down and around and out into the village again, there are more of the necessary accommodations. Can't have too much of that with so many people living together. And then we have a flower stand for people who want fresh flowers in their little houses. They can come here and stock up. This wagon is the home of my dwarf paladin. He is much on the road, so it makes sense for him to have a mobile home. And the floating shelf stair treads are convenient because he can just pick them up and put them inside. Now, these wagons, this covered wagon, you can't actually go inside, and if you do, the floor isn't really there. So I've had to make adjustments for that. This one you can go inside, but there's a trick to it. And there is a floor because I put down a rug, so what you have to do to get inside is click on the stool, and voila, you're inside. And these wagons are nice and tall. Our tour guide here is a night elf, and is quite easily able to stand and fit in here. Although there's a sort of sill glitch where night elf toes get caught on these beams, so kind of have to jump to get out. And of course, coffee for anyone who's so inclined. Have to have that. Oh, excuse me, kaffa. But yeah, they can make themselves an espresso or just have regular coffee. And then back here is the entrance to the Hunter's Hall, which is the quarters of my hunter main, who is a dwarf hunter. No, he doesn't hunt dwarfs. He's a dwarf and he's a hunter. Again, more another outhouse. My headcanon is there are flush toilets in the outhouse, because who would want to live next to the smell otherwise? So this is not just his private quarters, but it's also a gathering place for all the hunters. There are, I think, 3 or 4 of them. So, the order hall items here, nice sitting area, some beverages back there in the corner with some mugs handy for people to pour themselves a libation. And there's a lot of High Mountain Tauren decor because this tune is the one I ran through the Order Hall, the Hunter Order Hall in Legion, obviously. And that happened in High Mountain, and I really enjoyed that. So, headcanon is that he did too, and decorates accordingly. His sleeping area is simple and relatively Spartan. But that's because all of his self-expression really takes place out here, and that room is just a place to sleep. With the stone bed, because dwarves are weird. Back out. Now this is designed to be defensible. It's kind of a mini fortification / redoubt inside the... there's that rotation bug again. Blizzard, what are you doing? Okay. So it's kind of semi-fortified, designed so that the village residents can hole up in there if they need to while help comes if the village is invaded. In here is one of my favorite tunes, a Void Elf Rogue. Okay, let's try that again without Blizzard's problem they refuse to fix. Well, in fairness, it's only been going since player housing was introduced in early access in December. So, 6-7 months. What's that? So she is a bit of a pack rat. And so enamored of having her own space that she maybe goes a little bit far. But lots of stuff that she has obtained through various means. So, yeah, anyway. An admirer of Erator, obviously. And I couldn't figure out what to do with this pet bed, but man, it makes a great overstuffed chair. Very comfy. Sort of kit bashed with a few other pieces to make a nice seat. And the gnome is there to troll Norman, the gnome mage. And then last but not least, we have my Worgen, who is a warrior. So, quite Gilnean in here, with the exception of they figure that just because they're from Gilneas doesn't mean they need to use the crappy furniture that Gilneas seems to produce, like that table over there in the corner. I think the Gilneans are really the orcs of the Alliance, and that everything they make is crappy. And just a nice, cozy sleeping space. Again, this is not a character I've done tons on, so I could only inject so much personality in here. So that is the interiors in the village where all the funny little tunes live. Except for a few. And I'm actually going to walk you through the Great Hall and show you one tune's space, because it's not in here. Because the rest of the warband didn't. They said she needed more room to exercise her hobbies, but in reality, they just don't feel safe with her playing around with engineering that close to them. So back here, off the entryway, is Natalie's space. Natalie with a G, of course, because gnomes are weird. And she is mad for engineering, as is fairly obvious from her chosen decor. Plenty of storage over here for various engineering knickknacks. And oh look, she's made herself a motorbike. I do like kit bashing vehicles out of stuff from the game. And she can actually sit on it. Larger tunes can sit on it, but it's quite cramped. The front tire is actually 2 cushions melted together to make a fat tire, because I thought that looked neat. And it gave more room for the forks and headlight. Back here is her living quarters with a nice seating and social area. Coffee, of course, because gnomes need to be even more hyper. And the sustenance dispenser from Mechagon. And then her personal living space, which is fairly minimal because it's really just a place for maintenance. It's just the maintenance is for her, not her stuff this occasion. So, that's Natalie's place. And just as a bonus, we're going to end in the bar, which is also, it's Norman the Gnome's bar, at the insistence of his war band. So the entrance to the house is actually through this bar. Walking traffic being so important. And this is decorated based on the in-game experience of all the different alts. Stuff from all the different expansions. And it's, I'll use the word, it's cozy. And of course, various items on display. Zalatas portrait suitably displayed. And lots of knickknacks. And just stuff from their various travels. And a canoe hanging from the rafters, because I don't know why, but having a canoe or a kayak hanging from the rafters seems to be a thing done in pubs. So it's also a really good looking piece, and I couldn't figure out anything else that made sense to do with it. So there it is. This spear item, the Call of Onahara, is great because there is actually an item in the game with this appearance. So it's cool to be able to transmog to it on my druid and display a piece right here in the inn. Pardon me. So, anyway, that's it for the tour. I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.